Hello and welcome to Talk to Al Jazeera. I'm talking to Azmi Bishara, a former Arab member of the Israeli Knesset. He is a charismatic intellectual and is the first Arab to run for Prime Minister of the Knesset. He calls for a fair and impartial state for all its citizens. He protests that it is unrealistic and prejudiced for Israel to be both Jewish and democratic.
This means actually built-in discrimination. They can't be equal citizens when all the time you look at them as if they are a demographic problem.
This has led to accusations that Bishara is trying to destroy the Jewish character of Israel.
The police deals with the Arabs in Israel as if they are enemies.
You are being investigated by Israeli police for, at this stage, unpublished charges. You've been in this position before. Do you think that being an Arab member of the Knesset, you are being targeted?
Well, yes, I think I've been targeted. It's a reality now because in the last few years I was 2 times brought to court, and this is the 3rd investigation. The first 2 times had to do with my actually political opinions. Once because I was accused of not acknowledging or not recognizing the Jewish character of the state and calling for a state of its citizens. Even an Israeli court could not accept this as a charge because it's actually turning the demand of equality into a charge. Or liberalism or democracy into a charge. The second time, because visiting an enemy country, they considered Syria and Lebanon to be enemy countries, and we were charged of that. And actually, we do not accept that the enemies of Israel are our enemies as Arabs and Palestinians. We think we are a part of the Arab world too, not only citizens of the State of Israel. And this is the 3rd time. We can say the first 2 charges were once probably constitutional charges or normal felonies, and I was stripped of my immunities, but I was unguilty actually. The court did not accept the Israeli charges. This is the 3rd time, and it seems for me that this time they tailored what can be, what has to succeed in Israel, which is security charges, something that has to do with our connections to the journalists and friends in the Arab world, as if it's passing information to the enemy at time of war, which is a very, very severe charge, but had to do with what we think is normal, our relations with the Arab world, and what Israel wants to use as a tool in order to get rid of this position in Israel, which calls for Israel to be the state of its citizens and accepting the national character of the Arabs in the country.
But how do you balance your interests? You say that Syria and Lebanon, particularly the Hezbollah, are not your enemies, but they are enemies of the Israeli state.
Yes. Well, the Israeli state was established in 1948 on the ruins of the Palestinian people. Now, if you want, in the language which would be known probably in Australia or in America or even in South Africa, we are indigenous people. I mean, we were the people, the natives, if you want, of the place. And Israel was built on our ruins. We did not immigrate to Israel in order to become Israelis. Like many French people would like the Algerian to integrate in France in order to be accepted as equal citizens, or America. But these people immigrated to France and America, and they chose to be French. We did not choose to be Israelis. I mean, Israel came to Palestine, destroyed Palestine, and Israel emerged on the ruins of Palestine. Now, we are Arab Palestinians. Israeli identity, if you want, which does not exist even according to Israel. They insist that their identity is Jewish. There is no such thing as Israeli identity. And our Israeli citizenship was forced upon us. Now we use it as a framework for work in order to live our daily lives, in order to demand equality. But this cannot amount to identification with the goals of the country and the region, which we do not accept. We are not Zionists, and we don't consider Lebanon and Syria our enemies. On the contrary.
So are you advocating the destruction of the Israeli state?
Of course not. We do not identify with everything that other organizations demand have. We live in the state of Israel, in the framework of citizenship, and we think that Israel should be accepted if it accepts just peace, which means a just settlement with the Palestinians to coexist in justice and in equality. But we do not accept a kind of apartheid reality with the West Bank and Gaza and 3rd or 4th class citizens for the Arabs in Israel. We do not accept this reality. And of course, we do not accept Israel to be the police of the region. In that sense, yes, we do identify, for example, with the victims of Israel. The West Bank and Gaza as victims of the occupation. Lebanon as victim of Israeli aggression. And we don't conceal this. We think that Israel's turning of this border incident into a full-scale war was an aggression against Lebanon, which destroyed about 1/3 of the country. And we also say this crimes of war were committed. we said that as Palestinians, and actually you can see even as parliamentarians. I mean, it's our duty to say this against an Israeli aggression. But in addition to this, I think what is cultural, what is historical, and people do not understand is the fact that historically we cannot identify with the Zionist project. It's a Zionist project which is built on our ruins.
How do you find your workings with other Israelis on the Knesset?
Well, Israel, if you want, and this is very much so translated in the Knesset, the Knesset is not, if you want, the worst political culture in Israel. The street could be even more racist than the parliament. But in the parliament, I think tolerance is to a certain border. I mean, Israel is democratic in the limits of being a Jewish state. I would call it a tribal democracy. It's democracy for Jews. And Arabs are granted rights because they are a minority, because they can be endured. They should not be tolerated. They should be ousted. They should, immunity there should be stripped. They should not be allowed to participate in elections. All kinds of things. Actually, when we sit here, this is now running in Israel because of the case, because of the investigation case. They are really an incitement. And what worries me and what's amazing, I think, would be amazing probably for the Western who thinks that Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East, that the media lacks dissent, that it's totalitarian actually. There's one orchestrated incitement calling for ousting us or for not tolerating us, etc. While in the Arab media there are different opinions.
What options are open to the Arabs there? What do the Israeli Arabs want?
Well, differently, of course. Normal people are not professional politicians and they don't think of ideologies, etc. But I think the ideas that we brought and that they think it's a dangerous thing and they are now fighting against since 1996, 1995, turning Israel into the state of the citizens, etc., has now cultural hegemony, you can say. Most of the Arabs, even people who don't support us politically, agree to these ideas and think that the Arabs should be acknowledged to run their own affairs as a national minority, like other national minorities, like Quebec or others in the world, and the state should be the state of all its citizens, because as long as it's Zionist, it cannot grant equality for its citizens. Now, the majority of the Arabs, I think, do believe that. But of course, there are different interests. Like any other minority, some of the Arabs are connected to the state apparatus. Some work in the state and are afraid to say their opinions. Some have connected interests with Zionist parties even. So we have different opinions. But I think the majority of the people now agree to this platform. And I think this is driving a lot of people in Israel crazy, that what we started now is becoming actually a commonplace.
Okay, we're going to be taking a short break now, but after the break we're going to take a closer look at the case and what the wider implications are for the Arab world.